with only marginal further ado of failed takes, false starts, and redos of this video. Oh, that was actually pretty well phrased. I don't have to redo this. So, without further ado, let's go on to Heroes of the Storm patch notes from April 11th, 2018. Now, there's a pretty big preface to this video, keep in mind. This patch was scheduled for today, Wednesday, as Heroes of the Storm patches always are on Wednesdays when they concern balance patches. However, there were a few small login issues, and due to that, it is going to be delayed by a bit. I don't know exactly how much, but I still want to do this video because even though it's not live yet, the changes are very interesting. I was looking at them just now, and I think generally it looks like a very good balance patch. And with recently the sentiments having been a little bit hot-headed, it's nice to see some changes coming that I feel mostly really hit the mark. So without further ado, let's go look through this. First of all, home screen rework. Heroes of the Storm's home screen has received significant improvements. A secondary navigation bar has been added near the top of the home screen, beneath the existing play, collection, loot and watch buttons. Click each tab on the home screen navigation bar to switch among different categories of heroes related news. Home screen tabs will be updated regularly and will commonly include information about the latest heroes, the current in-game event, Heroes Esports, and more. Each home screen tab features additional news items near the bottom of the screen, which can be clicked to find out more details about that topic. For example, home screen buttons may link to heroes and other items in the collection, the latest hero spotlight video, oh, very nice, and the Heroes Global Championship schedule, oh, very good, and more. Now, that is some really cool stuff. Heroes Esports making it to the client on a fundamental basis is realistically 3 years too late, but it's always better now than later. For example, no, I don't want to embarrass myself saying things that I was 3 years too late with, but then finally, okay. For example, everyone who's living in the Netherlands, if you don't know what you're going to do in the future or where you're going to live, it's always a good idea to sign up for the rental registration services so that you take up an early place in the queue when there's a rental place available somewhere in the Netherlands. That is if you want to move out from your parental home. Most people should do that when they're 18. I did it when I was 20. 2 to 3 years too late, and yet so much better to be there early. There we go. Embarrassment not too large. Now, let's go on. Heroes balance changes. Assassins. Falstad. Falstad has been a very popular hero all throughout. Never the most popular, but always useful on account of his ability to fly halfway across the map. We call it a global and it's very useful. But he hasn't seen as much play. He dropped down a lot ever since Genjis and Tracers of this world gave him a hard time and made it untenable for him to stay in lane, because they kill him before he can even use any of his escapes. So he needs maybe some buffs. He doesn't see a lot of play now. I do still think he's good, but whatever. But what kind of buffs does he need? To deal with Tracer and Genji? Or in general? I'd say even his damage output is not the best anymore. Everyone in their Nexus gets better, new heroes get released, so maybe he needs to be more competitive. So what does he get? Mana return for the Gathering Storm build. Seasoned Marksman generally is a little bit better, because Seasoned Marksman interacts with minions, and minion clear is always very good. Gathering Storm interacts with hitting heroes, which makes you hyper focus on being in the PvP lane. That's not always the best, because you're a global hero that can side soak lanes like the best of them. That is why Seasoned Marksman is better than Gathering Storm, and this mana return, although it's nice for those situations where it works, doesn't change when you should make the decision to get Gathering Storm. You can benefit from it when you take it. Let's say if you have Falstad on Battlefield of Eternity, I would 100% recommend this. Same thing for Brax's Holdout. And it's a nice buff for your sustain. but don't take it for that reason. Next is Wingman. Wingman is a bribe talent with Thunder Strike, well, the Lightning Rod. It's related to that. Now it also gives the Lightning Rod cooldown reduction, which makes it very interesting indeed. Maybe it becomes worth to take Falstad just for the bribe. Updraft now gives you a permanent shield instead of temporary, in addition to giving you 40% bonus range on your barrel roll and 40% extra shield generation. A competitive choice, though probably you would normally like to go for lifesteal. This has now become more interesting because it essentially means, and this is the one that really helps you to deal with Tracer, Illidan and Genji surprises in the lane, you have a permanent shield from a pre-prepared shield from the barrel roll. You keep it on you, make sure you don't take any poke, and then when you get found, you do another one. So you essentially have 240% shields thanks to this talent in order to deal with "you are not prepared" Illidan, and then you get out and you might survive it. And it's going to do a lot more than lifesteal in that situation. Do a barrel roll. Next up, Phoenix, the culprit of the Nexus. Phoenix has had a 65% win rate, as opposed to everyone else. Tracer 60%, and everyone else is like 58 and below, or 55 and below. So he was, across the board, one of the best heroes in the Nexus. Let's look at if his nerfs, or I should call them buffs, because there was nerf and buff, are going to be sufficient in my opinion. His basic attack damage gets reduced by 10. That's about 11% rounded up. That is a significant nerf. Plasma Cutter gets nerfed by 10 damage. That is about 7%? Huh? About 7%? Is that? I think so. Not bad. Quite a good nerf indeed. Planet Cracker gets a 3 damage increase, about 2.5% bonus, maybe 3% bonus, closer to 3. If you would like to get some more massive damage, Planet Cracker is going to be your guy. Okay, I like it, but you know, Purification Salvo is still like crazy. Keep in mind, by the way, that I think Phoenix has been overpowered due to his numbers, either too much health or too much damage. His kit itself is not oppressive. Tracer with blink 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 recall, that's oppression. Can't counterplay it because it's instant. But Phoenix is not. Warp has a delay, and for the rest is just shields, HP and damage. So if you want to nerf him, take care of his damage and his health and shield. So far he's had nerf, nerf, buff. Advanced targeting gets a nerf in total output. Arsenal synergy, where it's like repeater, 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 was 100%. Correctly assumed by people, correctly seen by people that it was useless compared to the other two. Now it's going to be more useful. Repeater, 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 and then a really big splash damage from the plasma. Okay, that's a buff, but probably this one is still worse than this one. But now it is pickable, I would say. Emergency Protocol gave you mount speed when your shield broke down. Now it's only 25. I also think this is the best, if not the best. What? The best, if not the best. If not, maybe the best. And now it's only 25% instead of 30. Combat advantage, 10% less bonus damage from the searchlights. Auxiliary shields gave you 15%. Gave you 20% auto attack, shield leech, and now it's 15. Dampening field was probably bottom 2 picks at level 13. 15% spell armor on your shield while your shield is up. Now it's 20%. Rapid recharge, shield recharge. Okay, this is the amplified healing that not only came later than amplified healing, but was also weaker than amplified healing. Because it's only on shields and not on his HP. And it comes 7 levels later. Wait, what's 13 minus 4? It came 9 levels later. Only on shield. and fewer percentages. So it made no sense. Except if you say, well, I like it anyway. But then I would say, why? I like pie that fell into the rain too, but I'm not going to eat it. The taste is good, but you know it was on the floor. For the rest, now it's going to be buffed 40% instead. That makes it a lot more competitive pick. So, good on that. In terms of bringing it in line with the others, that's a good change. Though you may wonder whether, with all these compensations to a nerf, he's not going to be too good anyway. Singularity Charge is a buff. This is, in my opinion, a good change, because before, Repeater Cannon gives you 125 or 150% bonus attack speed, and the 50% bonus from this one was almost nothing, because it's 50% added to the other percent and then on the base. So in actuality, you only got like a third more attack per second. It was really weak extra change. This is a good design change, I would say, especially because it's so deceptive, the percentage, 50%. Again, not sure merited. Unconquered Spirit gives you an even greater shield, and this is a significant increase. A third greater shield when you take lethal damage. It was like 1360 if memory serves correctly when you die, and now it's going to be 33% more, so it's like 1700 HP shield. Totally unmerited, I would say. So they say that he's proven quite powerful, so we're making a few changes. We're happy with how he plays. Yeah. Now, he's got so many buffs. Buff, 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 and a buff. And then he has nerf, 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 nerf. So overall, it's as many buffs as nerfs. So then we need to see, okay, how does it actually pan out? His Q is, yeah, I'd say if his win rate now is 65%, it's going to be 63. I think it's good that they nerfed, that they made a really big step with his basic attack damage. And it's true that most of the buffs to his talents are on talents that won't get played much. So make no mistake, it's definitely going to be a buff across the board. It's not going to be... nerf! Make no mistake! Make no mistake, it's definitely going to be a nerf across the board. Alright. Yeah, that's... that's all I'm going to say. But this is a big step. I think this is a big step. However, it's going to be, I would say, 60% win rate still. He will still be very strong, and it's not enough. And it's a little bit... I don't know if I want to say cowardly, but it's a bit too soft-handed. Especially with such a strong sentiment. And yeah. Moving on. Hanzo. Hanzo, I currently have him tier S on my tier list, together with Tracer and Phoenix and Genji and Chromie. But Hanzo seems to be the most contested at pro play and very popular on ladder as well. He gets some nerfs. He gets a 5-second nerf to his cooldown, natural agility. That's a quarter cooldown longer. Good. Dragon Strike, the not so dangerous ult, gets an increase in damage of about 9.5%. Serrated Arrows no longer does 2.5 times as much damage on PvE, but twice as much. Small nerfs, still very good, but will be somewhat felt. Will have small nerfs attached to him. But if you, not always does he get pressured to use this, not always does he go this talent, and he's going Dragon Arrow and Stormbow builds, and you'll barely feel the differences. Hanzo is still going to be top tier, tier S. He's not even going to drop down to tier 1. This is good to nerf, and this had to happen a long time ago. This has been a problem talent since he came out. He can cheese the boss in 10 seconds or less. He can take a siege camp in half a second. But yeah, so this is a good change. But he will still be tier S. Li Ming. Dominance. Had to do a double take when I read this because takedowns restore 25. This is now 30. I was like, wow, they buffed it. But it's of missing health. That means if she has 1% health, it's essentially a buff once when she uses it. But if she has 70% health, she doesn't go to 100 anymore or to 95 as she would have pre-patch. And if she's at half-life, she gets 15% of her max health. Before it would be 25. So dominance has been nerfed, and I think, although no one asked for it, that doesn't always have to be that way, obviously. It was 20%, okay, fine. It was 20%, but the comparison still works. As for Ether Walker, which doesn't get used, but is still better than Astral Presence. 4 seconds. If you don't take 4 seconds, you can blink. For free. Nova changes. I mean, no one plays her, but let's look. Each hero hit, I don't understand because I don't know what it actually does. Armor when she gets revealed or something. Double tap nerfed. Added functionality. Double tap nerfed. You get 2 charges, but they regenerate slowly. Poor Sonic the Beast. He was this close to using her in the Crucible. This close. And this is his talent, I can tell you that. He takes perfect shot like once every 10 times in a lethal decoy, less damage, crippling shot, less armor debuff, and explosive rounds better, so she can help with wave clear. This close for Sonic the Beast. Nova nerfed. Tracer. Tracer had a, I don't know, 20% health increase when they reduced her burst and mobility, and also a 9% auto attack damage increase. Now, 4.5% reduction. And anyway, it was 27 and went to 29. Now it's back to 28 because she's the second best hero in the Nexus. And 70 health down as well, which is what, 4.5% as well. Varian, more health, but it gets taken out of Taunt. This is effectively a buff to Twin Blades and to Colossal Smash. Still gonna be bad, especially Colossal Smash, but Twin Blades is slightly more acceptable. Medivh. Medivh buff. So Medivh, he may not be at the top of the win rates, but that's because he's so hard to play and so easy to troll with and so easy to fail with. But he's so good to succeed with. Medivh is a broken patch. He's a broken hero right now, absolutely insane. And Arcane Explosion with the group shields, as I outlined in my initial preview, has been absolutely bonkers and is the picks to go to. So let's see what they do with that and with Medivh in general. Force of Magic is a good talent. No one takes it, no one has taken it. This is the second buff it's going through. And the reason it doesn't get taken is because Arcane Explosion exists in its current iteration, where it explodes not just on the main shield, but on all the Circle of Protection shield targets. I don't care if this gives you over 9,000% spell damage, spell power. I'm still gonna take Arcane Explosion. Okay, maybe over 9,000. Anyway, if they keep doing this while not accepting that Arcane Explosion is broken, way too much damage, too easy to use, and too easy to proc, before you know it, this one will sneak in and be ninja OP, and will then be the new problematic talent. We don't even have any data on it, because no one is gonna pick it when this one is still around. So, I don't know about this one, just don't touch it. Maybe it's good, I haven't tested it. Arcane Explosion is really good. Moving on to see how much did they nerf Arcane Explosion, and it's as follows. 10% off, which is about 11% on the base, and if you load damage into it, it explodes even bigger. 45 less, 35 less, which is a 10% damage nerf on the max as well. Previously, this went from 365 to 350. So, before it was like 3 damage nerf, 3%, and now it's like 10 to 11%. That's still way too good, I think. It could have been 40% nerf. And that would be more in line with what it should be, I think. In short, if you're a Medivh fan, keep playing Arcane Explosion, I think, and let them keep buffing this until it's 40% and this one is 200 damage. And then we can start taking Force of Magic and dominating with that. But maybe you disagree. Maybe you think the Explosion group shields, when it's only, I don't know, like 2000, that's fine instead of 2200. Circle of Protection did also get nerfed. 2-second cooldown increase. So it will be 10 seconds instead of 8. That's a pretty decent deal. You get the group shields, but you sacrifice the cooldown. That's a big deal. That's a 20% nerf, right? 25% nerf to how often you can use this and this. Reabsorption brings your heal from 20 to 60, now from 20 to 70. That's a pretty big deal. So maybe overall this will matter. Sylvanas. 5 damage increase. It's about 6% damage to her basic attack increase. And for a moment I thought, when I read this, that Black Arrow is gone, which I've been lobbying for years to remove Black Arrows. But they haven't. They've only removed it from her ability application. So her auto attack still shut down forts because lore. No more Shadow Dagger, no more Withering Fire to disable structures, and no more Haunting Wave. The Haunting Wave is actually a buff, because now Sylvanas will not use her only escape anymore to lock down a building for 2 seconds, thereby die to a gank. This does create more counterplay. She has to stand there and shoot, and therefore she's in a more predictable and close range position that allow you to kill her. But it doesn't take away that when Sylvanas and you wipe a team or kill 3 members, or you have an objective and Sylvanas is well protected, it still feels dumb that all your buildings aren't defending against the boss. It's not even taking 1% damage. So it is a good step, and they also explain that it's a quick step while looking at her further, and I respect that they did that, and I think it's a good change if they were going to do anything at all. And so I think that's fine. But it's such a quick fix that we can't really say like, okay, now Sylvanas is playable or now she's not. Already Sylvanas is really poor in teamfights, and she's only a gimmick to win games really quickly, where otherwise you would just have a small or medium advantage that can still be come back from. I think she's one of the most irritating heroes to lose to, because it's like, oh, one of my guys died, now 4v5 we can't defend because our fort isn't fighting. But in terms of quick fix, it's still better than nothing. Moving on. Karazim, he's been pretty low on the tier list. I think he's bottom 6 support. There's not that many, so it almost makes him top 6. Yeah, some buffs. He's got a health increase, 51, 71, 78 extra health. Not bad. What's that, 4% or so? And also Transcendence healing more. Also about, what is that? I don't know. How much percent? Do we really need to say percent? 6 more, okay? Which is actually about 6%. Now, that's, I think, acceptable and desired buffs. I wouldn't say it's gonna make him better than Malf or Stukov, but it's still good. Malfurion. 5% nerf to regrowth health. 5 heal nerf from Moonfire as well. And Strangling Vines increased. Overall, small nerfs, still the god. He's still the top dog, top 3. And then we get to the Chen nerfs. Big list of Chen nerfs, let's look at them together. Oh, that reads like a buff. Oh, reads like a buff. Buff, buff, buff. Chen buffs, it's nice. Just yesterday I was playing Chen, and if you don't believe it, I did, you know. Look, see? Had a lot of fun with him. We did lose, but I was top damage. Played him twice. See? Here and here. And actually I was just talking about how all the talents that aren't the meta, which is Flying Kick, Boulder Flavor, and Elusive Brawler, they were too weak and weren't working. Now, they buffed those. Good stuff. This was 10 armor for 1 second per hero hit. Now it's 15 armor per hero hit. Yeah, it was 10 armor per hero hit as well, but also 1 second per hero hit. Now it's 15 armor per hero hit, and for 3 seconds period, and that is so much better. You're now looking to have 15 to 30 armor. Realistically, you'll hit 1 or 2 people with the ignition. 15 to 30 armor every time you fire breath on someone who's also drunk. And that lasts 3 seconds. Before, you'd have 10 to 20 armor for 1 or 2 seconds. So overall much better. Still, the quest is very difficult to complete. 30 stacks. Oh, it was 25 armor for 1 second? Really? Right, I think you're right. Sorry. Let me check. Yeah, quite correct. Okay. So it was 25 armor for 1 or 2 seconds in the old one. Now it's 15 to 30 armor for 3. It's not quite as big of an improvement as I erroneously assumed for a second, but it's still a buff. However, the quest is still 30 stacks of your quest, of W into E, and that's still too difficult to complete, in my opinion. And Elusive Brawler is probably still better, but it's not as clear. It would have been nice if they lowered the quest threshold from 30 to 25 as well, in order to help with it. But here's the cool one. Regeneration globes no longer cap at 30. Right now it reads, after gathering 30 regeneration globes, shields from Fortifying Brew, 50% of it lasts indefinitely. And he gets 1 HP per second regen per globe. So that's still all the case. But if he has, I don't know, I'll just name, if he has 250 globes, he'll be gaining 250 health per second. Probably unlikely, more likely, and even in a long game, would be 40, 50, 60, maybe 70. It's going to be quite good. But it also means you'll be distracted by globes all game and maybe die 1 or 2 times more often than otherwise you would. Kick Toss, a little bit more damage. It competes with the Flying Kick double damage. It's so little. But it does work in the Donkey Kong build. The Donkey Kong with the cooldown resets at level 16 or 13 or wherever it is, with the extra slows and lots of kick toss. It's gonna be quite cool. A little bit more damage always helps. It's fun for ranged Chen build. But ranged Chen build doesn't really exist. So, well, try it and it's gonna be fun. But, yeah. And then this one is a very good one, because if you just look at how he works right now, the next Stunner Silence cuts its duration in a quarter and resets cooldown if you drink a drink. 15 seconds cooldown. While channeling Brew, you have 30 spell armor. And this is also something I brought up a long time ago, at least on stream. It's kind of senseless. Like, usually when you're drinking, you don't really need to spell armor because you've got your active topping off shields all the time. It's when you get interrupted on drinking, that's when Chen really is in trouble. And even though you can drink again right away, usually When you get interrupted, you're stunned or silenced, so you can't drink again immediately. And even if you can, you've already taken a big chunk of damage that didn't get covered by the spell armor. Now, you also still have the spell armor while the shields are still there. And they can persist because of level 1 talent. Maybe not because of bolder flavor, because it's the same tier. But his standard trait gives you a shield for a duration of 2 seconds. So unless they immediately disappear your shield with damage, you have a 2-second grace period after drinking that you didn't have before. So that's a pretty big improvement. That means you can take bolder flavor for the bonus shield, burst and max. You can take Brewmaster's balance for a balanced build and regen and movement speed and stuff. Or you can get this one in particularly high CC opponents comps. Interesting. A few small changes to Dehaka. Adaptation buffed, Enduring Swarm with spell armor buffed, but enhanced agility is better. Lurker Strain, the knockback slow has been buffed, but minion collection is better. This one actually, if I read this correctly, enemy heroes hit by Darkstorm grants 1 essence, is really broken, I think, if I read it correctly. Because there's many ticks of damage and you could be hitting multiple enemies with your Darkswarm, and are all of those continually giving you 1 essence? Or is it 1 time per proc? It seems really strong. I don't know why he's getting buffs like this, but it's all buffs so far. Even though it's some of the lesser used talents, that's still good. And this one is, I've always found this a weird talent. Why? It's because basically his whole level 13 talent is the same. It's all different kinds of damage, but all with Dark Swarm. So it's not an interesting choice. It's always like, can you do the monster math? And look at this. 10 armor debuff on Dark Swarm targets. Or you do more damage with Dark Swarm, but only while movement speed bonus is active. So you need to ask yourself, am I gonna Dark Swarm people with the bonus or without? That's question number 1. And 2, will 40% of my Dark Swarm damage be better? Or is it better to armor debuff them, which also that makes me do more damage with my Dark Swarm, my Drag Tongue, my auto attack, my isolation level 10 alt, and all of my allies damage. So the choice between these two is just a question of like, what's gonna happen? It's just a numbers thing. It's not really it's not really like that interesting of a choice difference. And this one is like, oh, you have more auto attack damage per essence stored. That one is interesting and it's different. So now, Ferocious Stalker. I don't know, it's 50% now. Maybe people use it, maybe not. Next, Leoric. Out of nowhere as well, Leoric buffs 4 damage and 1 second better cooldown drain out. I feel like Leoric is already pretty good, don't feel like he needed it. But then it's not big enough to be egregious either. Tyrael. More healing on level 1. More armor but for shorter time. More auto attack damage. More burny burn. More burny burn but shorter period. And more recharge but shorter period. So they say they want to have benefit from mass teleporting and all the bonuses from it. But if you don't take the talent of mass teleport, like back and forth, then you have less bonus. Tyrael buffs. I guess he hasn't been that popular, so I think that's fine. Zarya. A little bit more health, a little bit more regen, a little bit more damage on Particle Grenade, and Graviton Surge improvement. Then it continues and it says some bug fixes and a bunch of other things. Feel free to pause the YouTube video and read them at your leisure, but the link is also going to be in the description below. And that was it, the patch notes preview. Hope you enjoyed it, found it informative. Please leave a comment in the section below, and also don't forget to like and subscribe.